Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the unofficial official pregame show for OneSoccer today. I'm Adam Jenkins, joined by Oliver Platt and Gareth Wheeler. Was told that Andy Petrillo doesn't work before noon, so I had to come in and step up, and I'm happy to do so, as we have just received the official release of the Canadian Men's World Cup qualifying list. Oliver Platt and Gareth Wheeler, they didn't make the list, somewhat surprisingly, but they are here to break it all down for us, gentlemen. I know you are reading it as we speak, just to make sure that you've dotted all your I's and crossed all your T's and you haven't missed anyone. But coming into this, you both had a pretty good idea of what we were going to see. So now that you've seen it, Ollie, I will lead with you. How close do you believe this list is to John Herdman's best possible selection?
A lot closer than I thought it would be, to be honest with you. That Jonathan David is missing, obviously. Scott Arfield's, I believe, and like you said, was just checking the list to make sure here.
So why don't Ollie, why don't I let you gather your thoughts and read the list out for everyone in case they haven't seen it here. So let's start with that.
Good idea.
And I'm just going to read top to bottom. It goes goalkeepers through center backs, fullbacks, midfields, forwards, etc. So in goal, Milan Borjan, Maxime Crepeau, Dane St. Clair. Center backs, Ferreira, Sterling, Vittoria, Waterman. Fullbacks, Atakube, Gutierrez, Johnston, Lorea, Miller. In the midfield, Corbianu, Estacio, Hutchinson, Kay, Nelson, Piet, Witherspoon, and up top, Cavallini, Davies, Hoylett, Laren, and Miller. Canada Soccer has tweeted that, and I'm sure OneSoccer will be on that as well. Okay, Ollie, now I'll come back to you to jump back into where you were.
Yeah, so no Jonathan David, obviously, as we kind of have come to expect, given the League One restrictions. No Scott Arfield. That's a bit of a surprise to me. I guess it just came kind of too late in the day that he didn't intend to be there because of Rangers' title run in the Europa League. Now it turns out they've won the title and they're out of the Europa League, so they don't have a whole lot to play for. So it would have been nice to see him. And then Jonathan Osorio is the other one, who I would imagine has been part of maybe the injury issues they've been having at TFC or whatever's been going on there. So three names there that are missing, but as I was saying, it's a lot closer to a full-strength Canada team than I thought it would be, given all the circumstances that they're dealing with right now.
Yeah, a couple other notable omissions, and it's more because of fitness or injury more so than anything else. Did you mention Jonathan Osorio? Not there. Scott Kennedy was receiving plaudits, playing second division Germany. He came down with a knee injury in a game a few weeks ago, but then there was a COVID outbreak in the team, and he was unable to receive an MRI. They were hopeful that he was going to be able to go, but obviously that wasn't the case. Daniil Henry still recovering from injury, a player that's really been a rock for the Canadian men's national team over recent years. Liam Fraser recovering from an injury as well that kept him out of the January camp. Obviously, he played a massive role in that 2-0 victory over the United States. And Tesho Akindele as well, I think it's worth mentioning. He was part of the January camp, not in season. He's in preseason. He's on the outside looking in for this Canada team as well. Now, the good news, who's there? Is Steven Vittoria was a serious question mark at center back as he was battling some fitness issues, and that he was going to be named to this team. This is a big boost to this group, and this shows that he is fit and ready to go and ready to play, because there were some questions with the center back position. Now, Ricardo Ferreira was called up, an exciting player on the ball, absolutely class on the ball, changes association from Portugal to Canada, doesn't have a club right now, but I can confirm that he was with the under-23s in Mexico training alongside Frank Stirring and Teo Corbianu. It was a way to get them acclimated with the Canadian team, but also for Canada's had to be creative in order to bring some of these players into the United States with all the quarantine issues involved. It was actually easier to bring a group of players to Mexico and then make their way from the United States rather from their European destination. So rest assured, Canada, did everything they could to bring the biggest and best names possible to these two qualifying matches. So I'll hand things back off to Ollie. That's just a little bit of context about some of the players that are involved.
Yeah, I got to say, despite the obvious strength of this Canada team and how far the team has come over the past few years, it's still reassuring to see Unattached FC represented by Ricardo Ferreira.
Had to be one
this time. But no, you can start to kind of envision what it's going to look like, right? Obviously, centre back, who's going to play there is still a question mark, but at least there's options and good options on paper at that position. Who will get the start, we'll wait and see. But then you've got Larea, Johnston, Gutierrez, Adekubi, potentially Alphonso Davies at fullback. Central midfield looks really strong. You're not going to be able to select all of Piet, Hutchinson, and Eustachio, so you're going to have some good strength and depth there. And then up front, I would imagine we'll see Hoylett and Larin +1. Obviously, that's Alphonso Davies if that's where they choose to use him, but there's good options as well. And in players like Corbiano and Cavallini, who would normally probably be in contention for the lineup, but whether fitness and being out of season plays a part there, I'm not sure. But there's good options all over the pitch, and you can easily start to envision a pretty strong starting 11 here that shouldn't really have any issues with Bermuda and the Cayman Islands.
The lead story, I feel like we've kind of buried the lead here, Jenkins, but Alphonso Davies is involved. I mean,
yes.
That is a huge boost considering, all the questions about what Bayern Munich would do with their players. A lot of teams in Germany, they've restricted players in terms of their travel. This is a massive boost that Alphonso Davies is available for this team. And look where he's listed in terms of the Canadian roster. He's listed as an attacking player. So all those people out there that are saying, he should be playing left back. Well, that
Oliver
doesn't
Platt.
seem the case. Yeah. Like this guy down here. Well, at least on my screen.
Okay, guys, Gareth, I'll jump in just because I know later tonight on OneSoccer today, we're going to go through this a little bit more in depth. And I believe you guys are even going to give us your projected 11s once you've had a couple hours to look over the names who have been released. If you are just joining us or joined us a little bit late, this is OneSoccer reacting to John Herdman naming his World Cup qualifying roster for Bermuda and the Cayman Islands. I don't want to give more work to our digital producer, Armin Badakian, but he might be able to throw that full list in the YouTube chat if it hasn't been tweeted already by Canada Soccer. Ollie, I'm going to come right back to you, and then we'll move on to the players who are on the team. But quickly, who do you think is the bigger omission from this group? Is it Osorio? Is it Arfield?
It's probably Scott Arfield because he's in season. Osorio is a player who I have just a ton of time for because of his adaptability, the multiple different roles he can do, and he's always such a useful player to have in the squad for that reason. And I think he would be able to adapt to the fact that he hasn't had a ton of preseason time and be a useful player in the squad. There's no doubt about that. But you were always looking when this squad was being selected, who are the guys in season, fully fit, with a lot of minutes under their belt, who are going to be able to join the group. So in that respect, Scott Arfield is a bit of a loss. As I said, I think there's enough there in this squad to compensate for it, and Jonathan David as well, given the level of opposition.
Right. I'm looking at the group, and it's not an omission, like he's hurt, so it's just more of an absence, because certainly Osorio would be competing for a spot in the starting 11 if he was fit and ready to go. I'm trying to picture what that front three would look like for this Canadian team with no Jonathan David there. I just have a feeling that Kyle Larin's proven himself maybe not to be that out and out number 9. He's kind of playing more underneath and to the right with Besiktas right now, and he scored 18 goals in like 34 games this season. He's been ridiculous. Yeah. So I can see him playing on the right side with Davies on the left, and it's just who you want to lead the line. Liam Miller's on really good form right now. I know he's playing for Charlton, but he's in season. Perhaps it might be better to then be able to turn to a Lucas Cavallini off the bench. Obviously, there's a Junior Hoylett who can play in those positions. And then your midfield as well. And you might not have that traditional or that typical number 10, but the way that Eustachio is playing, I just cannot see him not being in a potential starting 11, and Atiba, if Atiba's coming back, and I just look at this to be such a lift for the entire group, having a player that many consider the greatest Canadian men's player of all time back in the team at 38 years of age, playing some wonderful football. I mean, that's just such a lift for the group. So it's going to be interesting to see. And then you have players like David Wotherspoon who are there, and Sam Adekubi. They're in season right now. They're playing. So I think that when John Herdman names his 11, we'll kind of get a real feel. And he's been saying this all along, whether it's interviews on our air or elsewhere. He wants players that are in the middle of their season right now so they can hit the ground running. So there's going to be some evaluation over the course of the next 2 days, but I think he has a pretty good, sense of who he's going to turn to and what he prefers. Just the other name is Corbiano. I know that John has been a fan of watching this player. He's been on fire with Wolves under 23s. He's a player that might offer something different than some of the other players in the Canadian camp. So there might be an outside shout that he can make it a starting 11 as well.
Ollie, who do you think has the most to gain play, like on an individual perspective from this tournament? The beginning of the tournament, I should say.
I would probably go with Kyle Larin. I know the quality of opposition. I don't think John Herdman's going to be drawing too many conclusions from these matches in terms of who might be playing in a game against the top team. But I think Kyle Larin is the one. We talked about this a bit yesterday. He's not really been a key part of what John Herdman's done so far, because obviously he's had his struggles in Turkey and it's only a recent development, obviously, the form he's in now, and there hasn't been any international games since he's come into that kind of form. So this is a new Kyle Larin we're seeing, and I think if he's able to really step up and take responsibility during this break and lead the team up front, and I agree with Gareth, I'd like to see him wide, but I think it's got to be either him or Cavallini through the middle, right? I don't see many other options there, so we may see him through the middle. If he's able to step up and carry his club form onto the international stage, then I think it certainly boosts his stock going into the summer. So he's one, I think, despite the opposition being lower than what he's used to in Turkey, I think it's a big break for him.
I'm also looking at the fullback position. It's extraordinarily deep. Yeah. I think it's deeper than Canada's ever had. Alistair Johnston, 21 years old. Richie Larea at Akubi. I really like Christian Gutierrez as well. I think he showed really well. He is committed to Canada by virtue of the change of association as well. And Kamal Miller can play at left back as well if he doesn't start at center back for this team. I think there's a lot when you ask that question, Adam. I think the most to be gained is across that back line. No Kennedy, no Henry available. There's real competition for spots back there. So let's see who steps up for this group, because that's going to be important over the course of these next 2 games, as well as potentially 3 games coming up in June as well.
Well, we were given a hard out today. Not that we're known for going over time on these hangouts or these reaction shows. We got to
jump on a call with John Herdman. That's why.
We have to go talk to John Herdman. So make sure you keep it locked to @OneSoccer on social media. We'll tweet out some of the best sound bites and everything else we learn from the Canadian head coach as we progress closer and closer to the big day on Thursday. Olympic qualifying, Canada versus Honduras for a spot in the semifinal round. And of course, World Cup qualifying getting underway as well against Bermuda. Oliver Platt, Gareth Wheeler, thank you so much. We'll see you tonight on OneSoccer today, 7 p.m. Eastern time, for even more coverage of this big day, this big week for Canada soccer. Hope you enjoy, and we'll talk to you soon.